Hey, NEBC family, it's June 5th. Can you believe it? It's been nearly 3 months since we had our last in-person worship service. And today I want to share with you some information about how we will be restarting our in-person worship services over the next few weeks. And I want to say a special thank you to our elders and deacons and our staff who have been very helpful. We've been talking quite a bit about this, praying about it, and just trying to make the best plan possible so that we can start having services again. And like you, I've been watching a lot of news in the last few months. Some of it has been very helpful, and then some of it's been confusing, some of it's been conflicting, but some of the guideposts that we have been leaning on come straight from Scripture. And Scripture is never confusing, it's never contradicting, and we have found it to be very helpful. And so I want to share with you some of the verses that have helped us to get to this place of reopening the church. So 4 verses in particular have been very helpful. The first is found in Hebrews chapter 10. And you probably know this verse where it says, "Do not forsake the gathering of yourselves together." And so this is a command for the church to worship. Now, most of us, thankfully, we don't need this commandment because we want to worship. We're drawn to being here at the services every week. But the commandment is there, and it's one that we need to follow. Now, certainly, there are times when we kind of have an exception to this. So forget coronavirus for a second. Just in the normal kind of like passage of time, people get sick, they get the flu, they get a cold, moms have babies, we have job commitments, we're traveling. So there's definitely times when we just can't get to a service for whatever reason, and that's okay. But the principle is that we should not be in a habit of avoiding church, but rather we should be in the pattern of attending. And so that's one of our guiding principles. Another is found in Romans 13, where Paul says that we need to submit to authority, So this is important because we have been following this verse for the past 3 months. And so you remember back in March when all this was starting up, and the government said you can have a group this big, and then it was this big, and then it was this big, and then it was nope, you just need to shut down. And so we've done that. But a couple of weeks ago, Governor Baker introduced his 4-phase plan for reopening the state of Massachusetts. Phase 1 allows for houses of worship, which would be NEBC. We can begin to offer services again. So that is Romans 13, submitting to authority. Another verse that has helped is Philippians chapter 2, verse 4, which tells us, don't just look out for your own interest, but look out for the interest of others. And so if you paid attention to phase 1, when Governor Baker made that allowance for churches to meet, you saw that there was also a couple of caveats. And so there are 2 principles there that we have to follow. One is that churches can meet, but they can only have 40% of their occupancy in the building for a service. In addition to that 40% number, those who are there must follow the social distancing guidelines. So we are going to follow that. And that goes right along with Philippians chapter 2. Don't just look out for your own interest, but look out for the interest of others. Another verse that's been helpful is from Acts chapter 20. Paul was talking to pastors and church leaders, and he said, pay careful attention to the flock. Now, when he wrote that verse, the context is that he was saying, be careful of false teachers and false teaching that could come into the church. Make sure that you don't let it come in. Pay careful attention. And so this isn't really a doctrinal application of this verse, but we still can take the principle, and that is, we need to pay careful attention to how we begin to regather our congregation. So there's been so many different numbers and all kinds of statistics that have been thrown out there. One thing that has been very helpful for us is to pay careful attention to our flock. We are responsible for New England Bible Church and no other church. So, of course, a church that's in downtown New York City is going to have a far different reopening strategy than a church that is in northern New Hampshire. One church in New York City would come from one of the highest rates of infection in the country. Northern New Hampshire, one of the lowest rates of infection. So we're not going to use one of those strategies. We're somewhere in the middle. Our congregation is made up of people who come from over 20 different towns and cities, as far south as Boston, and then as far north as Manchester, New Hampshire. And so there's a lot of difference just in that area. As of today, Massachusetts has had over 7,200 COVID deaths. New Hampshire is at about 275. So even the two states are vastly different. But this verse says, pay careful attention to the flock. So when we take these 4 verses, don't forsake the gathering of yourselves together, submit to authority, look out for the interest of others, and pay careful attention to the flock. That's helped us to arrive at, here's our plan for reopening NEBC. So what does that look like? So June 7th, that's this weekend, this Sunday, log on, watch the service online, just like you have during the entire shutdown period. June 7th, just keep watching as you always have. June 14th, we will begin a live stream service. And what this means is that when you get up on June 14th, get your coffee, get in your favorite seat, and you can watch the service at 10 a.m., the time we normally hold our service. Watch it from home or on your device, however you watch it. That'll be on June 14th. On June 21st, we will continue that live stream service, but that will also be the same Sunday that we begin to welcome our congregation back in person into the building to have in-person worship services. So that June 21st date, there are a couple of things that we're going to need to do. Now, we'll tell you more about this going forward, but I just want to make sure you know a couple of things up front. First is, we know ahead of time that the service will look a little bit different. We won't have the normal greeting and shaking of hands and all that stuff. We won't have any nursery or child care initially. We won't have the coffee and famous donuts initially. It'll just kind of be a very basic worship service. But perhaps the biggest change you'll notice is that we are going to ask everyone if they will sign up online through our website in order to attend that service. So we're not trying to make this hard or make it frustrating. Of course, it is a little awkward to sign up to go to church, but the reason is that we need to make sure that we are within that 40% guideline, and that the ones who do sign up, we make sure that there's the right amount of distance in between each family or household. And so we'll share more of that with you going forward, how you can go onto our website and sign up, but I just want to let you know kind of the timetable. So June 7th, this Sunday, watch it online as you always have. June 14th, we begin our live stream at 10 a.m. and then June 21st, a live service at 10 o'clock here at the church. Now, we know that not everybody's ready to come back to church. We understand that. We support that. We know that everybody's kind of a different phase here. So what I want to make sure you understand is there is no pressure for you to be here in person. In fact, if you're in an at-risk category, if you are vulnerable to the virus, if you're caring for somebody who's at risk, I want to encourage you, stay home. We've worked really hard to make this service available online for you. And so you can join us online. I know it's not exactly the same, but you can be at home watching it online while those who are not at risk and those who are comfortable attending are here at church in the sanctuary. And so we're looking forward to how this works out. It's a little bit of an experiment. I'm not sure if there's 10 of you who want to attend or 300, but we'll figure it out going forward. But I sure am excited that we're getting closer and closer to kind of a regular worship service. So stay tuned over the next few weeks. We'll give you more information. But I'll see you Sunday online. God bless you. Have a great weekend.